Hello, everyone. My name is Vaughn, and I am the founder and starter of this series. The reason that I wanted to start this series was to help people from poorer and disadvantaged backgrounds, for example, lower classes or poorer people who at least have a screen and phone, to have a wide understanding of politics. The importance of politics is the study of how society works, how the governments govern their government, their society, the society's needs, wants, and responsibilities, and so on. So, first question we need to ask ourselves is, what is politics? This is perhaps the most simple question in all the videos that we are going to cover. What is politics? So, politics is a government, and how it runs its society to cause peace, quiet, and no panic, chaos, and other negative outcomes that could affect the whole economy, financial, and many other branches of the government. What is a government? A government is a system, basically a group of people who are top class, who rule under the lower classes. They organize everything from shops, vandalism, police, ambulances, hospitalizing, and so on. So now, today, we will cover the simple topic, different and all kinds of government, starting with democracy. Firstly, democracy of ancient Greece. The first person in charge, the top dog, is the king or a part of councils, as later on. At first, from 200 BCE to 800 BCE, there was a king reigning in Greek. And then to government officials like senates, councils, and citizen representatives called tumbrils. That's what they were called back then. Next were the noble people, people who were rich, filthy rich. They had if their money was put together, they would end up 2 trillion US dollars. That's just an estimate, but back then, when they had a lot of money, they had to mine stuff. For example, gold, silver, and bronze. A gold coin was the system most used by the noble people, as it represented 2,000 or more bronze coins, 20 or more silver coins. So, a gold coin was nearly a month's wage for peasants and normal people. So, next up on the line is knights. In this case, the Greek called them foot soldiers or a pawn. And knights are foot soldiers that basically ride on horses. These foot soldiers were feared because of their fighting skill, strategy, and tactical military arrangements. They formed a peaceful country where they reigned over different branches of philosophy, math, healthcare, and science. Our most common beliefs in the medieval times, 1600s, and so on, were based on the Greek studies of philosophy, healthcare, financial business, economy, and many other branches that our students all over the world study today. Next up are peasants. Peasants may sound like really filthy, dirty, rude, and crazy people in society, but actually they are the most hardworking and almost always the most intelligent. Not in economy, learning, and education and military and reenactments, but they're really good at farming, providing a basic food source for the whole kingdom. Even though they work the hardest, they get paid the lowest. The Greeks' reason for this was that they are not worthy. The problem with these ancient democracies, were that they were never fair. For example, I am a boy, right? So if I am a slave, which we'll cover later on, no voting. A woman, no voting. A man, but old and parents not in Greek, no voting. The list goes on forever. Actually, in the almost 2 million people in Greece, only 5,000 are qualified for voting. That is how it is not a single drop of fairness except for those 5,000 people. And lastly, the lowest class possible. Everyone considers them filthy, dirty, and dumb. Slaves. Slavery goes back to ancient times. You might be surprised, but Americans only started taking slaves at the medieval times, like the Europeans and the Americans, but ancient democracies like Greece had already started taking slaves. And these slaves were not just no one. The slaves were treated kind of equally as peasants. But when they were working, slaves were treated like scum. Look, to a king's view, there are basically drones, servants, slaves that do his dirty work for them. To soldiers, they are just filth under land. To peasants, they are lower class, filthy mudlarks. So that's how you are very unlucky to be born a slave in any of these times. So next on, we have the medieval democracy. From the early 1500s to 1900s, that we had the medieval kingdom democracy. At first, as usual, the top dog, as usual, is the king. These systems, as you might have noticed, go in a triangle. The first top is the smallest, but the most powerful. The next up is second most powerful. The third up is less powerful. And the last is filth and scum, as you have seen in all of my reasoning and explanation. Next, we have government officials, which take rules, approve them, provide local history information to the citizens that is basically 50% not true, because they want to convince the citizens that they're the best and they don't suck, even though they do suck. The government official run the country, but receive orders from the king, the top dog, to the lower dogs, and then to the filthy and scum. Next, we have knights, noble warriors that ride on horseback, wear armor from head to toe that weigh almost 200 pounds, hold a gigantic sword with a ruby-encrusted handle, go into battles with fire-breathing horses. Myth. These knights are the most common job for noble boys at that time, as history suggests 90% of those boys risk their necks in battle and then get severely injured, and I mean severely injured. For example, burned from head to toe, stabbed 23 times in the groin, like Julius Caesar had, and he died because he was old, but not in this case. Soldiers were suffering from a ton of pain while Greeks tried to fight off Rome, Venetians, and barbarians, and many more enemies. Next is peasants. As usual, they're the low wages, hardworking peasants. The word peasant. They are the most hardworking and then get paid the least. That is very annoying when you're a peasant. Obviously, because the soldiers think you're filth and scum. That was how it was in medieval times. They had to pay all sorts of taxes, this tax and that tax, tea tax and sugar tax, salt tax, and water tax. There was a ton of taxes, and the kings had way too much power. He controlled everything, and absolutely like dictatorship. Like Adolf Hitler, which modern times and stuff, he ruled with an iron fist, hot eyes, and a heart of a coyote. He didn't care if people were getting executed, and then he had a party where people were executed. When the victim got their head chopped off, he would toast the dead corpse, and then the whole crowd would cheer with the king because nobody wants to disagree with the king, or the king would say, "Off with his head." So you would see how dangerous it was for a peasant, especially for a slave. Slaves were 30% more likely to be executed, chop, than a peasant or soldier when committing a serious crime. This was due to slaves being considered as lower class, filthy, and a lot more, which is too unpleasant to say in this video. And lastly, modern democracy. It's here. It's on the screen. I'm using a mouse made by democracy to do everything I want. For example, buy ice cream, watch TV, play computer games, learn education, have time and stuff. Even the ring and these come from my government, which we'll cover later on. Firstly, we have the elected ruler. Not the king, not a priest, but in this case, a president. You might have heard the term president of the United States, and it's exactly what it seems like. President is exactly like the president of the United States. You rule over everything. You can control the army. You are the ruler of it, and hence people consider you as a noble gentleman or gentlewoman. But so far there have been absolutely zero women who have become presidents. That's very sad for people like women who want to become president and influence the whole of the United States before influencing the whole world. Next, we have the army. Trained soldiers who are buff and like Giga Chad, train every day and then wear their armor on and then use guns, bazookas, atomic bombs, airplanes, dogfighting, and farting, maybe batoning, sticks, swords, sometimes to force another country to retreat back to their country if they're attacking. And lastly, the citizens, like you and me. I mean, you and me. We live in everyday life. I have a mother, a father, a sister, a brother, and everything in my family is ruled by the president. In our country, it's called the chancellor, or maybe the dictator. It's also weird because each country has their own type of democracy. Even some countries follow communists who want everyone to be fair. So that is a topic we'll cover in the very next episode. So for now, it's all for today, and we have 3 kingdoms in total: the ancient one, the Middle Aged one, and the modern. None of them were perfect. And we see every day in them, we see everyday objects. Cars, not back in the time, but in our modern days, horses, and a ton of things like clocks, band-aids, and a lot. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode if I do make one. So good afternoon and goodbye.